back for another Cinema 4D tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use emitter objects and some simulation tags to fill objects with different objects of your choice. So in this case I'm filling up a letter N with spheres, and this can be an animation. So if we go ahead and press play, as the emitters spit out the spheres, they actually take shape of our letter. And some of them are a little bit messy, but that's just because the size of the sphere is a little bit big, and they bounce off each other a little bit. But this is super easy. You can use this for any other object. It's super easy. It kind of incorporates with one of the other tutorials I made about how to make objects pass into other objects. But we'll just go ahead and hop into it. So I'm just going to create a new file quickly, and here we are. So this can work with any object, but the object that I'm going to be using is the text, which is pretty much just a text spline with a extruder object built onto it. So we grab the text and let's choose a random letter. Let's go with V. So now what we want to do is I'm going to choose a font that has it's a little bit thicker, that has a little bit more room. So I'll probably use Impact is always pretty good. It's a wide text. And I'm just going to add some depth to, let's say, 50. That looks pretty good. So now we have our text. Now what we're going to have to do is we have to open up the top of our object. And if we go into the polygon mode, nothing happens. So first we're going to have to make this editable, and all this does is adds an extrude object to a spline that is a V. So if we drag and drop the extrude and the spline out, we can get rid of the rest. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight both of them. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go connect and delete. So now we have one object that is a polygon, and it has polygon surfaces that we can use and delete. So I'm going to select the top two and I'm going to delete those. Perfect. So now when we render this, we have a V without the two tops. Alright, now for this scene, we don't want there's two ways that we can do this, but we don't want our V to be seen. So we can either just hide it in render view and hide it in editor view, and then you won't see it. Or you can right click, you can go Cinema 4D tags, compositing, and then uncheck scene by camera, and that should work as well. Alright, next we're going to want a couple of emitters. So I'm just going to go and I'm going to grab simulate particle and grab an emitter. And I'm just going to rotate this and set this up quickly so that it fits over one of the opening of our V. So when you're moving in the rotate tool, if you hold shift, it moves in increments of 10. So you know it's always on a perfect angle. I'm just going to use these views off to the side here. It's somewhat center. Let's lift the object up. I'm going to come into the emitter object, and that's where the size of our emitter can be adjusted quickly and easily. And we just want to make this a little bit smaller than the actual opening, so that if the particles or the objects do kind of bounce around a little bit, there's more of a chance that they'll land inside our object. So now that we have our emitter, we have our V with the two opening up, and it's not available in the render view. Now we can choose any object we want to fill the V. Usually I would do spheres, but let's do platonics today. You have to size your platonic to whatever you want, so I might do something like 8, where it's not too small, but it's not too big, and that should work. So now we're going to drag the platonic as a child of the emitter, and I'm going to come into the particle section of the emitter, and I'm just going to check on show objects, and what that's going to do is when I press play, we'll see the platonics falling, like so. Now the next step that we got to do is we have to add simulation tags to let the objects know what they can collide with and not to collide with. So for our letter, we're going to right click it, we're going to go simulation tags, and we're going to add a collider. And then for the platonic, we're going to do simulation tags and rigid body. So now when we press play, they all fall and they bounce off the top. Now this is where the other tutorial comes into play, where we have to tell Cinema 4D that this collider is actually hollow. Right now it is just set to automatic. We're just going to set this to static mesh. And when we play again, they are just falling right on through. Let's see if we can't figure this out quickly. Okay, so this is what I did. I accidentally put a collider tag on the platonic as well. So I'm just going to go back and I'm just going to add a rigid body. So that's just what happened there. And we'll come into the collider tag of our V and go static mesh. And now when we press play, all of our platonics fall into the V. I'm just going to make this about 300 frames long. Sometimes you have to change the stop emission of the particle emitter to the same length as your timeline. So if I let this run for 200 or so frames, and then we render, we'll see it's starting to fill up at the bottom. And one way that you can just see what's inside is these two little dots here. The top one is the editor view, and the bottom one is the render view. So if we double click the top dot and make it red, it will disable it from our editor view. So now when we press play, we have the shape there that's telling the objects where not to go, but we also have our collider. We can come into the emitter and we can make the birth rate and the birth render a little bit faster so that a little bit more come, but as you do this, it becomes a little bit more crazy and some might fall out. And as you can see, only one of the branches of the V is filling up. So I'm just going to copy and paste another one over to the side here. You might need to uncheck that little box that we had set so that you can see where to place the emitter. And when you got it in place, hide it again. And now when we press play, the V is going to fill up nicely. So at the end there, it's getting a little bit crazy, but our V is starting to fill up. So if we go ahead and make a quick texture for this, I'll just throw this here. We'll just add some global illumination and ambient occlusion, and we'll throw a physical sky in there. So this is what you're going to notice is going to happen at first. So you go to render it, and you're going to say, why the heck is this not lighting up? And that is because we have it hidden in our editor view, but in our render view, it is still technically there. So the light can't pass through the object. So if we double click that, and we go ahead and render, the light can pass through where the V was, and we get the look. I might make these a little bit smaller. I'll make these 6. I'm going to re-render. Let it fill up a little bit. They fill up much slower when they're smaller. That's why I had them at 8, because this starts to happen when there's too many in the scene and they start to slow down. But you get the gist of it. And like I was showing you guys, you can use this same technique for a square. If you quickly just, let's just delete the V, get it out of there, make this cube editable, just delete the top. You just need to throw a collider tag on there, set that shape to static mesh, and when we hit play, it starts to fill up our cube. You can even put little figures to, so if I set this little figure to like 50 in height, and I drag this in the platonic, or instead of the platonic, we can hit play, and now we get all these tiny little, these dudes falling down. It's much more difficult on the renderer. Actually, they're falling through because we forgot to re-add the rigid body tags, which I'll do right now. And when I go ahead and press play, they all start falling in there and scattering around and everything. So you can use this with you can even throw I believe you can throw a text object. Let's just make an N. Let's set the height to like 10-ish. Oh no, the height and depth. So we have our N. It's tiny, but that's okay. If we just delete one of these, I believe you can even throw texts in here. So all you need to do is just re-add that rigid body tag, and it emits letters now. So this is a cool little thing that you can do. You can throw whatever you want in it. If you have entire objects you've made, you can throw it in here. But simple as it is, that's just how we had our original scene of the spheres filling up the N. And that's pretty much going to be it. I had another speed art going for you guys, but about 3.5 hours into it, there was a power outage and my computer crashed, and the video file from my screen recorder went corrupt, and I have none of that footage, so we'll try to redo it. But anyways, guys, if you liked the video, leave a like down below. If you have any questions, feel free to comment, and I will talk to you all soon. See you guys.